Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. Episode at 82. We got a good lineup for you ahead of UFC Austin. First up, we're joined by one half of the main event in Josh Emmett to preview his fight against Calvin Kattar. This should be a really fun fight. Both Calvin and Josh are very entertaining fighters, always in fun fights, good strikers. So this one probably is going to just be a kickboxing fight, which makes it really fun. And Josh thinks the winner of this one gets that next title shot, especially with them fighting about 2 or 3 weeks before the featherweight title fights. It all lines up. We're then joined by one half of the co-main event, Joe Lazone, to kind of discuss kind of what happened at UFC 274. Obviously, he's supposed to fight Cowboy the morning of. Cowboy falls sick. The fight gets postponed. And then kind of how this one got re-put together for Austin and what kind of changed for his training. We're then going to be joined by Kyle Daukaus to preview his fight against Roman Dolidze. I always like talking to Kyle. A bit surprised he got this fight rebooked, especially when Julian's on the card and he was obviously supposed to fight Julian back in February. Julian pulled out at the end, gets Jamie Pickett, who he submits in the first round. But Kyle's just trying to look to streak together some wins and kind of hopefully enter that top 15 pretty soon. We're then going to be joined by Adrian Yanez to preview his fight against Tony Kelly. Obviously, this fight got a lot more interesting after Tony Kelly's comments in the corner when he was cornering his girlfriend, Andrea Lee. Adrian said he has tons of messages, tons of DMs. Fighters in the UFC are messaging him. Gilbert Burns said if he knocks him out, he'll e-transfer him a bunch of money. So this is kind of really interesting. Adrian says the pressure is kind of on to go out there and kind of shut him up for what he said. And then we close things out talking to Ricardo Holmos, who's back in action finally after not fighting since last October when he lost that decision to Zubair Tukov. He's fighting Danny Chavez. Ricardo's just looking to get back on track, get a win, kind of work his way up. He's still young. He knows he still has a lot of time, but he thinks he's learned a lot from that last fight, and he'll plan to show it here. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC featherweight Josh Emmett, who's headlining another card. Josh, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. First thing I got to know, how excited are you when you got the phone call that you'd be headlining another UFC event?
Yeah, no, I was excited. I wasn't sure what was going to happen just because, you know, I, I, I fought in December of last year. I was healthy. I wanted to, I wanted to fight in March. I wanted to fight in April. And then it just seemed like nothing was kind of panning out for me. I thought I was going to have to fight back again. And, I didn't want to, but at the end of the day, if that's all that I was offered to me, I was going to do it. And then they offered me Calvin Kattar. And yeah, I was excited because I'm fighting forward. It's a big fight. He's a great fighter. And then we're going to headline it, headline the UFC Austin card. So I think it'll be it's just going to be a good fight for the fans and the UFC. And this is what I've been working for and working so hard to get to. And it just gets me closer to my step or closer to my ultimate goal.
Were you worried a bit that you would have to go fight behind you again just because the time you were off, like Holloway, Volkanovski were booked, like the Korean Zombie had just fought, and then it's like Ortega and Yair kind of linked together. Arnold Allen was calling out Calvin Kattar, so there was all the guys ranked above you. So were you surprised you got Kattar? Or did you think he was probably the guy that made the most sense?
Yeah, I thought he was probably the guy that made the most sense, but you never know, you know what I mean? And just like with what you just said, yeah, I was seeing what was going on, and I was just like, there's literally nobody available except Calvin Kattar, and then I saw Arnold Allen wanting to fight him, and you never know. It's like I figured, who knows? I thought the UFC might do that, but here we are. It worked out it worked out perfect and the way it was supposed to.
What you make of Kelvin's last fight? Because obviously he was dominated by Max Holloway, and then he takes a year off, and then he basically does the same thing what Holloway did to him, and then he does the same thing to Giga.
Yeah, no, he's like I said, he's a tough opponent. He's a dangerous fighter. Yeah, I thought it was a great performance. I think he had a game plan, the way to beat Giga because he's so dangerous as well. He's a great striker. He's a even better kickboxer, and he has that Giga kick that he always goes to the liver. So I really think Kattar his team and camp just kind of executed the perfect game plan. That he kept switching southpaw to take that kick away. He was going to pressure him, use his boxing and elbows. Yeah, it was a great performance. I don't know what else to say.
And then how familiar are you with Kelvin? Not even just like, obviously he's a top guy, but you guys have fought a lot of similar opponents. So you've probably watched those fights a tons. Like, how much does that help where you can kind of see what he did against Ige and he did against Lamas and all that? Because you've shared the octagon with those guys too.
Yeah, no, of course. It's just different because styles make fights. So it's like, yeah, even though we fought some of the same people, it's like we're so different in our styles, and build and stature and stuff like that. So yeah, I've seen a lot of his fights. He's a great from what we've seen in the UFC. He's a great striker. He has good boxing. I'm sure his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu is good too. We just haven't seen a whole lot of it. You have to be well-rounded when you're at the top of any division or just alone in the UFC. So I'm prepared for wherever the fight goes, whether it's on the ground or stay standing, whatever it is. Like I'll be prepared for it. But yeah, I watch a lot of tape with my coaches and stuff like that, and we come up with game plans and stuff like that. But you really don't know what it's going to be like watching film until you're actually in there yourself. Once I get hit by him, I want to see how hard he hits. I want to see how fast he is. I want to, when we get in a clinch, I want to see how strong he is. It's like those are things that you only find out when you're actually fighting. So, I'll I'll get back to you once the bell rings.
And I saw on Instagram you brought in Shane Burgos. Like, how did that come about to bring him in for this camp?
Yeah, I was, I'm always working with Andre Feely, one of my, teammates and friends. He's been on the team forever. We're always main training partners. But he had a fight. And then he's just, he's fine. Everything's good with him, but it's like I'm in the thick of my camp and I need, like some hard rounds and stuff like that. And he's just kind of easing back into it. He's obviously not sparring right now. So we were just thinking of different bodies that were, big. Cause I feel like Andre and Calvin, they fought each other and they're similar builds. And then other than that, we don't have I can't think of anyone on our team. Like we have great training partners, but I like to have my training partners, like their build and everything similar to whoever I'm fighting. Right. So, we were just thinking out loud. And then, I was like, oh, what about Burgos to my coaches? And they're like, that's a great idea. So then, my boxing coach, Joey, hit up Burgos and he said he was down to come out and help. And like, we've always, he's a good dude. He comes from a great camp, great team. And, we've like through like Instagram and stuff, like on stories, message each other and stuff like that here and there. But yeah, so I hit him up, flew him and his little brother out here. His brother, Ryan Burgos, just made his pro debut on Saturday, a few days before he flew out here. So, yeah, and he's a tough kid too. So we've got some training in with him, and I'm sure the UFC will see him sooner than later. But yeah, it's just a good look. Calvin and Shane are both tall featherweights. They have long reach. So I just thought it was the perfect style to emulate his Cater's fight style, I guess you could say.
And then fight night cards, like most of them are still at the Apex. There's only a couple that they go travel. So like, how excited was it when you found out that this would be one of those rare ones where it's not at the Apex and you're back in front of fans in Texas?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's one of the things that, regardless, I was going to do it, but I know they were also talking that once Cater and I said that we're in, they said they're going to try to go somewhere where there are fans for this one. So yeah, I'm excited because I have, all my friends and family, they'll be out there. They would have been out in Vegas anyways, and that happened. When actually Burgos and I fought, I had tons of people come out, but obviously they couldn't come to the event. They weren't even doing like how the Apex has fans. You can buy tickets now. They weren't doing that back then because I think I was the third one. So I got to see them all after. and just talk to everyone and thank everyone for coming out to support me. But man, Austin, Texas, I have so many people coming out already that bought tickets, and I love the crowd, I love the fans, I feed off the energy. So um, this is going to be one for the record books for sure.
Back training for 5 rounds now. Like, does training change at all, or do you kind of keep it how it is for any other fight?
Yeah, I keep it the same. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I train so much, and I feel like, you know, I, I start to get like warmed up in my second win. Like when the fight's over, when I'm fighting a 3-round fight, I feel like I can go and go and go. And, I feel like I could do 6, 8, 10 rounds by the time the fight's over. So I always just keep it the same. When I was fighting on the regional scene and I was a lightweight champion for West Coast Fighting Championship, I had a few 5-round fights. They didn't go the entire distance because I got the finish in the championship round, and one was in the 3rd round. But yeah, I'm prepared. My conditioning and cardio is always up to par, and that's one of my strong suits too. People look at me and they're like, oh, he's gonna gas, he has muscle, stuff like that. But no, I'm always in tip top shape.
How do you think you match up against Calvin? Because on paper, like, this should be a really entertaining one, just because both you guys are known as really good strikers.
Yeah, I think I match up well against Cater. I think I match up well against any of them. I have to, you know, I I want to be a world champion. That's my ultimate goal. So it's like I have to be able to beat Calvin Cater in order to do so. On paper, yeah, it's going to be a great fight. Look at the opponents he's faced and the opponents he's beat. Same with me. I think we match up well, and I also think it's going to be, definitely an exciting fight for the fans. I know a lot of fans want to see this, and yeah, we're gonna we're gonna make it.
And with this too, like, this is your second UFC main event. Like, do you put any like pressure to kind of get one back just because you lost that first one, or do you not even really think about that at all?
Yeah, I don't think about that at all. It's in the past. It's like I'm only looking forward. I've been, you know, I feel like everything I've done, and I've been training my entire life for this moment. And yeah, so I'm just looking forward. Every fight is my biggest fight. The next fight is my biggest fight. The next fight is my biggest fight. So this is my biggest fight to date, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get my hand raised on June 18th.
And how do you kind of see it playing out? Just because Kelvin is super durable, like he took all that damage from Holloway, but on the flip side, like I think you're probably the hardest hitter at 45, and like it kind of shows in all your fights that you drop people and finish them pretty often.
Yeah, no, that's one of, I feel like Calvin's, strong attributes is his, he's tough. He's tough as hell for sure. He is super durable. He's technically sound, everywhere. But, I feel like, I can do it all too, and I feel like I possess a different type of power in the featherweights. So yeah, we'll see, but I plan on getting my hand raised regardless of where the fight goes. I don't care if it's a knockout, TKO, submission, decision. I'm doing everything I can to get my hand raised on the 18th.
Do you think this will mostly be like a kickboxing fight, or do you think that there's going to be some wrestling involved?
You never know. We'll see. Yeah, I plan on it just being more of a kickboxing fight, but you never know. We saw him implement some wrestling in his last fight. Um, but I also think that was, part of their game plan as well. Just to kind of slow down the kicks and, you know, yeah, who knows? But yeah, I really never have too much of a game plan going in there. I just kind of, adapt and adjust on the fly. Um, so yes, it's no different than any other fight to me.
Just two more things. Like, you guys are about what, 3 weeks before the featherweight title fight. So do you think this is pretty much winner of this fight fights the winner of Volkanovski Holloway?
Yeah, I believe so. I feel this is a title eliminator for sure. But at the end of the day, I'm not looking past Calvin Cater because I I have to get my hand raised. And then once the fight's up, then I'm gonna talk to the UFC and kind of see what's next in line for me.
If you do win, are you hoping to like get in attendance at that event so you can kind of see that fight up close?
Yeah, that's the plan. When I win, I would like to see who I'm fighting next. But at the end of the day, I just have to. I'm solely focused on the task at hand, and that's Calvin Kattar right now.
So then, like ideal scenario, you beat Calvin Kattar, like title fight probably by the end of the year. Then
Sign me up, but we got to beat him.
yeah, yeah.
So that's the plan. Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, my goal is to be a world champion. I'm going to hold gold eventually. So what the next year, whatever it is, I just have to get through a tough and dangerous Calvin Kattar first, and then we'll figure it out. We'll see what the UFC, what Dana, Sean, and them want to do. Because at the end of the day, it's up to them.
Well, Josh, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it. Sorry about that little delay.
Yeah, all good. All right, we're joined by UFC Lightweight Joe Lazone, who's got his fight rebooked. Joe, how's it going?
I've been better, but I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I just kind of want to go through fight week. Like, we did our interview about 3 weeks before the fight. Like, you were saying how you didn't even want to fight during the whole COVID thing because you were scared of a fight getting canceled the day before. And then sure enough, your fight gets canceled like a couple hours before the event. Like, can you kind of take me through that whole thing? Like, you weigh in, and normally once you weigh in, you assume the fight's good.
So I was super concerned from when we first took the fight. I was super worried about COVID stuff, right? Because there's so many things that could happen. Could be like I get COVID, Cowboy could get COVID, one of my cornermen, one of his cornermen. There's so many variables there, right? So I was really worried about COVID. And then when we got to be like close to the fight, I was less concerned about it, right? I wasn't as worried about it. Thought it wasn't going to be a problem. But I had like this gut feeling the fight wasn't going to happen for some reason. Never had this happen any other fight prior. I just had a feeling like the fight wasn't going to happen for some reason. And I even told my boxing coach. I was talking to the UFC. I was talking to one of the producers, the executives. I'm like, I feel like the fight's not going to happen, but like now we're at we've had weigh-ins. Everything's been good. I saw Cowboy. He had definitely had a hard weight cut, but he made weight, so I'm like, all right, I still get this feeling, but I guess it's going to happen now. Like we're here. It's going to happen. I don't think anything's going to happen at this point. And then Cowboy got sick. So, everyone was like, someone said he was eating tacos or something like that. And then but I can't, I had tacos the night before too. Like there was a great Mexican place, right next to the hotel. So I have no idea. He just, so I basically, we had weigh-ins, the early weigh-ins, the official weigh-ins, we made weight. We had the ceremonial weigh-ins. We saw him there. He looked a lot better. Thought everything's going to be good to go. We went and worked out that night. We worked out in the morning. We had our coaches meeting. We always get together, have a little coaches meeting and just kind of talk about, talk about the fight, where I see the fight going and all this other stuff. And then I'm assuming we're going to, the fight's on for sure. I went and ate lunch. I went and I lay down to take a quick nap. And I wake up to my boxing coach, banging on the door. I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, you were right. I'm like, I was right about what? He's like, fight's off, Cowboy's sick. I'm like, ugh. I'm like, now it's I was sleeping. So now I'm like, am I dreaming this right now? I'm slapping myself in the face. I'm like, is this real? You got to be lying. And then I look at my phone. I have a missed call from Sean Shelby, the matchmaker. I'm like, fuck, this is real. This is legit. So I called Sean Shelby. He kind of told me what was going on. So I mean, the whole entire thing kind of sucked. We trained for 14 weeks for this one night. We get there super healthy, in shape, not banged up. Everything's good. And then literally an hour before we're supposed to show up to the arena, the fight gets canceled. Horrible. Never had this happen ever. Any fights before the UFC, in the UFC, nothing. Pretty crappy.
Is the bright side that it got rebooked pretty quickly, like June 18th in Texas? I know Cowboy was doing, I don't know what he was. I know he was busy for a while. So I know even you were saying on Ariel's show, you didn't know it was going to happen. So are you glad it's happened now?
Yeah, I mean, it's happening. So I talked to one of his coaches at the fights, the night off, so I didn't even want to go to the fights. They showed me on camera. I looked miserable because I was miserable. And he was saying, he was asking about like doing it maybe it was like 2 weeks after, so been this coming weekend. It's in Vegas at the Apex. And I'm like, I will do whatever we have to do. What I don't want to have happen is this get pushed to like August or something like that. There's talk about the UFC coming to Boston, in the fall, like August or something, so like I would, in theory, I would like to be on that card, but I don't want to do the Cowboy fight there. Like I want to do the fight now. I don't want to wait another, 4 months, 3 months to do this. I want to do this now. It's like I'm in shape. We went through 14 weeks of like regular training is one thing, but doing like all the crazy conditioning and stuff like that absolutely sucks. Because as you get better, it gets harder. Like as you start to get in better shape, they reduce your rest. Like as you get in better shape, they increase the work. It gets horrible and more horrible as you get in better shape. So now we got another 5 weeks of that, which sucks. 5 weeks is better than 3 months, but it still kind of sucks. So last week I was like, I was kind of like emotionally drained about the entire thing. Like I trained, I did like my strength conditioning stuff. I worked out a little bit, but it was definitely on the lighter side. And then, now we'll be back to good to go, full steam ahead, for the next couple weeks. So, I think people don't just understand like how much work and time and like, I had a vacation with my wife scheduled for like the first weekend, like April or something like that. Right. And we canceled the vacation because I knew that if I went on the vacation, I wouldn't be enjoying the vacation. I'd be like, we're supposed to go to Belize. We were on our honeymoon. So like now it's a couple years later, we're supposed to go back before COVID kicked off, and that got canceled then. So it's been pushed off like 2 years now. I finally book it thinking it's going to be safe. And then we take, I cancel the vacation so that I can train properly for this fight. That doesn't happen. So it's like, just like this, there's so many sacrifices, things that kind of happened and changed and like plans we made and things like that. And like, I should be off of fight camp right now. You know what I mean? Like I should be off of I should be rebooking that vacation for now or something like that. It's, there's a lot that goes when most of your income comes from like 1 weekend or 2 weekends a year. You position everything else behind that. Like it's down the list of priorities, so it kind of sucks when you go from, okay, this is the date to you literally get to the date, you get to an hour before, like, oh, just kidding. We do this 6 weeks later. Like it's kind of crappy.
Did you get anything from that fight, or are they just more saying like, we'll pay you on June 18th?
No. So they gave me my show money. And then I have the Venom money too, which would be, a good amount. So like I got, but it's not even about that. It's like, it's obviously it's nice. It's better to get the money than not get the money. But it's so just emotionally draining. Like that's like the big thing. Like it's nice. Like I wasn't fighting this time because I needed money. Like I do well at my gym. Like it's not like my full-time job, like it had been in the past. So it's definitely, it's great to get the money. Like it's, we put in, 3 months of work, over 3 months of work. So like, it's glad we got the money for it, but, it was more about the fight not happening. Like, it sucks.
How hard is it too? Because I've talked to a ton of fighters that have fights delayed and stuff where you peak for that certain date. And like, even with you, like you had that weight cut. So now doing 2 weight cuts pretty close together, I imagine isn't easy. And then like you peak for that date and now it's like, you have to kind of bring it down, but then you have to get right back into it because then June 18th is going to be here soon enough.
Yeah, so we took it a little bit easier. So obviously fight week, we don't do any strength conditioning stuff. Like that week's off. And then the week before that was like a little bit lighter. Like I was crushing all the workouts, but like I was definitely like starting to feel it a little bit from camp, so like we lessened the strength conditioning stuff a little bit, make that second to last week a little bit lighter. So now it's like, okay, I had last week where I worked out, it was still a lighter week. But now we'll be back into it, for the next couple of weeks. It's hard. Luckily I have a really smart coach. My coach is Mike Perry from Skill Strength in Chelmsford. So I drive like over an hour to get to my strength conditioning place because it's important. It's really, really important. So I drive over an hour, and so I drive an hour there. I'm there for 2 hours and I drive an hour back. So it's a 4-hour commitment twice a week. So I spend 8 hours a week on strength conditioning stuff. And we're doing that for another 5 weeks. It's like, oh, we'll do another 20 hours of strength conditioning stuff. That's fine. Whatever it's going to be, 40 hours, 8 weeks for. So, it's just a lot of extra when we should be at the finish line. We should be done. And now it's like, oh no, we got like another couple miles to go. Let's go.
And then are you even now more worried about Cowboy with his weight, just because like getting down to 55 doesn't seem easy for him, and doing like these 2 back-to-back weight cuts probably makes it even harder?
I'm not that concerned about that part. I mean, of course, like a little bit, but he made it last time. Like I think he'll make it again. Like I don't think it'll be a problem. He made the weight. That was the important thing. He made the weight, like, and whether he tried to rehydrate too quick or he legit ate something really bad or something didn't agree with his stomach, I don't really know. But if he says he's gonna make the weight, I know he's gonna make the weight.
Is that something that's fairly common? Like, I know like the rehydrate, like I know it doesn't get brought up a lot, but like rehydration, like you have to do it to like a perfect amount or you start like puking. Like, is that something you see pretty common, and like it's not a huge surprise to see that happen? Or are you kind of surprised it did happen to Cowboy, given like how many fights everything happened?
I'm definitely surprised. Like, that's why it makes me think it probably was more food poisoning than it's maybe not even something that was super bad, but something just like a little bit off. Something just didn't agree with his stomach for whatever reason. I don't know. The UFC is great because they give us like a rehydration plan. So it's like, okay, like for me, it was like, okay, drink this shake within 15 minutes, this shaker cup, and then drink this next one immediately after in a 15-minute period, and then drink this immediately after in a 30-minute period, right? So they kind of give you a good starting point, and they give us all kinds of meals, and they tell us, okay, like we're giving you X, Y, and Z for meals. This is like 40% of what your calories should be, and then you need to eat like X number of more calories, so you need to eat and focus on this, and this, you know what I mean? Whereas back in the day, we were on our own. Like we just didn't, we didn't know what to do. We just like go and do whatever, I would go eat like a cheeseburger, or like, like I love like, we try to put extra sodium in your system. So it's like, I'm having like grilled cheese and tomato soup and stuff like that. Like it's a little bit of everything. But it's like, it's hard. Like I think every fighter has done it where like they cut weight and they eat too much too fast, or you drink your Pedialyte a little too fast or whatever it's going to be. And it just messes with your stomach. And now it goes from, okay, you have like a pretty fragile stomach to begin with because you've cut weight and you've been not eating as much and all this other stuff. And now it's like, it's hard to not go and overeat, because now it's okay. You haven't been able to eat for a couple of days, whatever it's been, or eating, but eating very little, to now, okay, you're getting basically free and eat as much as you want, drink as much as you want. So then it's like, I've seen guys like super common. I think sometimes like guys drink Pedialyte too fast. Like you're supposed to sip it, but guys, they're so thirsty. So they start chugging Pedialyte, and now their stomach's all upset. And now it's like, now it's even harder. Now you got to even slower again, because now your stomach is all fragile and you can't really get the food in as quickly as you like. It's just, it's hard, but the Cowboy's done it so many times, I'm sure he knows what he's doing. It's not his first time. But it sucks. It always sucks. Like my weight cut was not hard. You talked about me having to make weight twice. Like, yeah, it sucks. It more mentally sucks. Like physically, I only cut like 10 pounds. I was like 166, 165 when I started cutting water. I had a very, very easy cut to 56. I don't know what Cowboy was, but he was probably 170, I would guess, maybe a couple pounds heavier than me. So it's like, it sucks, I think, a little bit more for him. But again, I'm sure he'll make it. I'm sure he'll do what he has to do.
Before you kind of get into like the rebook, and the last thing I want to touch on with the card was everything with the scale. Like I watch your YouTube videos. Like I know you have like I don't know why more fighters don't do. Like you stepped on that official scale, then you stepped on your scale right away to kind of know the difference between them. Like, yep. Are you surprised like what happened with all these fighters saying like, oh, they were heavy, and like, did you notice that too?
I'm a little bit surprised, but like I try to go above and beyond on everything. Like I try to take like absolute ownership on things. So I have like, it's not a super nice scale, but it's like $120 scale, right? It's like, I think the brand is like Tanita or something like that. It's used by like a lot of times there's bodybuilders and people like that, right? It's a nice scale. I go to the gym, I go to my house, I got one we travel with, like I got a bunch of all my fighters. I make them buy one. Because it's important that you have to know what your weight is, right? So like every single day you check your weight on that good scale. Every time we go out for a UFC, I check my weight on the scale. If the scale that I had brought on Tuesday, if it wasn't dead on or like very, very close to the UFC scale, I would Amazon and order another scale. I go and find one at the store, and I would go and buy another one on the spot, right? Because it's important. For me, it's like, okay, like I check my weight every day when I get up, whether I have a fight or not. I check my weight every single day when I get up. When I have a fight camp, like I'm checking my weight throughout the day. Like I work out, I check my weight. I do this, I check my weight. And like the morning weight is the most important thing, but just kind of lets you understand where your body's at a little bit better. So when we got there on Tuesday, we checked on the UFC scales. We checked on my scale. My scale is always, in the beginning of the week, my scale is always half a pound lighter than the UFC scales, right? Always. But then end of the week, I think it's usually dead on. So I don't know if they calibrated a teeny little bit to make it seem a teeny bit higher, like more heavier. I don't really know, but that's what it seems to always be. It seems that my scale is always a teeny bit light at the beginning of the week. So, but I make sure that I make weight, knowing that I make sure that I'm on weight. So that's why a lot of times I weigh in, I'm like, my last fight in Boston, I was 153, right? But I was like 55, and then I just floated the rest, and I didn't want to drink or eat anything because I knew I was good, and I didn't have a hard weight cut, so I was 53. This time I was 155.2 on the official scale and the unofficial scale in the morning, right? But then when I jumped on the official scale, I was 155.5, right? So I was 3/4 of a pound heavier, 0.3 of a pound heavier. But I weighed in with my shorts on. When I checked my weight, with the UFC, in the back, I got on, just my underwear. I checked my weight. I was 155.2 or something like that, right? So I knew I was under. So when it came time to the officials thing, I just didn't have to pull down my shorts, right? I just didn't have to. It's like the last thing I want to do is like, oh, I'm pulling down my shorts just to get in my underwear, just to, be my accurate. And then I fall and slip or something stupid, right? So it's just, I didn't have to take off my shorts. So I just didn't. I just walked up, I kicked off my flip-flops. I stepped on the scale, you flex, whatever, you pose. I was a little bit heavier, So a lot of the fighters between like the early weigh-in and the later weigh-in, the fighters were all talking about the scale. And apparently the scale, the weight of the scale changed from like 5 a.m. until like 8 a.m. We're supposed to, the scale is supposed to open for us to check at 8 a.m. But at some point, I checked at 8 a.m. when I was 155.2. So the scale did not change from then until the actual weigh-ins. But I guess earlier, someone had messed with the scale. And I don't know if they recalibrated, they moved it, or like a scale has to be perfectly flat, has to be calibrated, has to be, like there's a way you can zero it out and everything like that. And I guess that someone messed with the scale and it was off by like 3/4 of a pound or a pound or something like that. So I don't think it was a case of like only Charles Oliveira was saying that. Like there were like 5 or 6 fighters. They're all saying that the scale was way different from like 4 or 5 a.m. until 8 a.m.
Getting to your fight now, like how excited are you that it is back in front of fans? Because obviously that was a big part of why it got moved a week, was to be in front of fans.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I'm glad it's in front of fans. It's kind of nice because before it was on pay-per-view and now it's on a fight night, so it's a lot easier for people to watch it. I'm excited for it. I'm glad the fight's going to actually happen now. That's what I'm most excited about. Like I'm glad it's not so far out. 5-6 weeks is still kind of far, but it's a lot better than like, oh, we're gonna do it in August. Like that would have been like pretty crappy if they're like, oh, we're gonna have you be like the main event in Boston in August. Like fuck, it's so much longer now. 5-6 weeks is a lot better than 14 weeks or whatever it is. So I'm excited for it. I mean, I don't really get excited necessarily, but I will, leading up to the fight, it's like I'm just looking forward to that relief of this fight being, it's not like this cloud that's hanging over my head. So I'll be happy when we get to 5 more weeks and I get this fight behind me and I don't have to deal with it and think about it and everything else. Because now it's like it's nice that it's like it's in middle of June, because that way at least I have like most of the summer to not be worried about training so much and kind of enjoy the summer a little bit, 4th of July and all that kind of stuff. So it's good. I'll be glad to get it over with.
Does like with you getting a few extra weeks, like does that kind of change any part of the game plan? Like, because then you can have more stuff to look at, or is it still probably the same game plan you had? It would have been in May.
No,
7th?
I mean nothing really changes too much. There are a couple things that we started working on like towards the end of camp that maybe I wasn't doing as well as we would have liked. So we kind of pulled it, we kind of threw it away and said, okay, we're not going to focus on that. We're not going to work on that. Whereas now we have more time, so I'm sure we'll add in some of those things, like little triggers and things like that. But nothing changes too much. Like it's still kind of the same game plan.
Is it still, I guess, try to get hit after him early because you're always one of those fast starters and he's a slow starter? Like, is that kind of how you still see this one playing out?
I mean, I don't think I could start slow if I wanted to. Like even if that was the game plan, that would be really hard for me. So, so I think it'll still be kind of, same game plan. We're going to get after him. He starts a little slow. I start a little fast. We're just going to get after him. That's all there is to it. But that's not necessarily a game plan as much as it's just, I think that's how it's going to play out. Like I always start fast. Like I don't have any fights that start really, really slow. So I think that's just kind of like a byproduct of how I fight. and a byproduct of how he fights. I don't think he goes out there and says, "Oh, I'm going to take it easy the first round. I'm going to pick it up in the second and third." I think that he takes a little bit longer to kind of find his groove and get going.
And with Cowboy too, like he's obviously very good with the kicks and like as he gets going with the grappling. So is kind of part of the thing, like having to get in close and not let him get that kicks going then?
I mean, that's part of it. I mean, like there's a lot of parts to it. It's not a case like, oh, we're just gonna go out there and we're gonna take him down and we're gonna submit him. It's like there's a lot more to it than that. But like that's generally is he's got good kicks. He's a little taller. He's a little longer than me. So I don't want to be at his range. I want to be at my range. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And on the flip side too, like I know you're a fast starter, but do you think Cowboy cutting down to 55 will impact his cardio at all? And maybe you can have more success later. Do you not really think that plays much of a role in just a 3-round fight for him?
I think everything is, impacts the fight. You know what I mean? I think that, the fact that he's a little bit taller, a little bit lankier, means he's going to have a little bit better range, but I'll probably be a little bit stronger and closer. I think that him having a hard weight cut definitely, helps me a little bit in the end, but where I'm a fast starter and I usually slow down for the later part of the fight, and he's the opposite. I don't think that's something we really want to bank on. We're not going to bank on, oh, we're going to get him early in the fight because we're a fast starter, but then he's going to have bad cardio because he's having a hard weight cut, so he's going to be bad in the later part of the fight. Like I don't think that's the case. I think everything kind of factors in and helps me. I think it helps me a little bit, but it's not like oh, we're going to take Cowboy in deep water and we're going to beat him in the third. It's like that's not what we're planning.
Just last thing, like, is it win or lose? Like, get on that Boston card if they do it in August, or is it kind of you have to see after the fight goes?
No, we'll just see how it goes. Like if we go out there and we do well in the Cowboy fight, and I still feel like we get through the next 5 weeks, and I still want to do this after, then we'll definitely think about the Boston card. If we go out there and we do really well against Cowboy, I would definitely entertain opponents for the Boston card, and we'll see what they come back with, and we'll see if it makes sense, and we go from there. But we'll see. Like I've said, I'm always taking one fight at a time. I'm not looking at the Boston card and looking past Cowboy or anything like that. Like we'll see how it goes.
Just quickly building off that, like, is it like, do you like fighting guys like Cowboy, or would you rather be like the guys you're fighting like Jonathan Pierce and those like young guys trying to build their name off of you? Or do you like fighting kind of these known guys just like you more?
I think at this point I like fighting guys that are more seasoned, that are bigger names. So I think I like fighting I like fighting Cowboy. I think he's arguably one of the biggest name fighters in the UFC, like one of the most popular. He does so much other stuff. He's doing movies and he's just awesome on social media. He's always having fun, ton of followers. So like I like guys like that. Like, Jim Miller was talking about fighting maybe fighting the winner of me and Cowboy. Like I wouldn't mind. I love Jim Miller. Wouldn't mind fighting him a third time. We had 2 great fights. So I don't know. We'll kind of see. We'll take it day by day. Like the last fight against Pierce worked out great for me. So I don't hate that fight either. It's just, it kind of depends on the actual matchup, like the particular matchup.
Well, Joe, I appreciate the time. Hopefully you can take the wife on that vacation soon. Maybe you might have to delay it till the fall then if the boss.
I know. That's the thing. So we go and do this, and now, we're going to fight in August now. It's like, we got to do this. Like it's very, very tight window on getting things done, but we'll get there.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you again.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right, we're joined by UFC middleweight Kyle Dawkins, who's back in action here pretty soon. Kyle, how's it going?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, another rebooking here with Roman Dolidze. Like after your last one, were you kind of expecting to get one of those matchups you had rebooked?
No, honestly. I mean, I figured I would have gotten Marquez again. That's kind of what I was like hoping for, at least. But no. Sorry, I got something in my eye. But no, I wasn't surprised. I mean, it is what it is. I have to fight anybody that they put in front of me. So, I was going to say yes, regardless of who it was anyway. So, yeah.
And I know he got removed because of COVID, and you already spent a long time like training for him. So is it just kind of a continuation off of that one?
He was a short notice fight last fight. So this camp, I've had a lot more time to just study him and just get prepared for him. I like the matchup. I'm very excited about the matchup, and I'm just pushing forward as always, watching film every single day, and jotting my notes down that I need to jot down.
And he hasn't fought like even since you're scheduled to fight. So like, is it hard to prepare just because he's been off for now over a year?
It is kind of tough seeing the reasons why he didn't have that he hasn't fought. I mean, from what I saw, he was supposed to fight Brendan Allen in his last fight before me, and he had health issues. I think it was after me actually, and he had health issues. So that's kind of a nervous thing to think about. Like me going into camp, thinking, is this guy going to show up, or are health issues going to arise again? You know, it was kind of the same thing with Marquez. You know, he's a guy with a long track history of not making weight and getting injured. So it's always something to be prepared for. But again, you know, I can't really control that. So I just control what I can control and just control my training and my mindset.
Do you ever maybe think about asking the UFC, like, can you get me one of these guys that have consistently made weight or consistently made it to the fight?
No, I mean, whoever they think is going to, you know, give me a good test, and whoever they think I match up well against, I'm going to accept. So I'm not really a guy to go out there and ask for anybody. But, you know, if the time comes that I can ask for somebody, then I will. But at right now, at this moment in time, I don't think I'm able to ask for anybody or kind of, you know, allowed to ask for anybody.
He's 3-1 in the UFC. Like his last couple haven't been the most like entertaining. Like, yeah. How do you kind of think you match up against him then?
I think I match up very well against him. Honestly, like, to be honest, you know, no, not to be like, you know, disrespectful or anything like that to Roman or anything like that, but his last two fights that he had in the UFC were against, I think, guys that fought at 170. You know, I know Trevin Giles dropped down, and I think the guy before him, Star Poli, I think it was.
Yeah, and he moved up for that fight.
He moved up or moved down or something like that. So I think I'm a good matchup for him because I'm going to be an actual middleweight that he's going to be fighting. I know Roman's fought at 205, so he's obviously fought guys that are bigger than me and kind of, you know, bigger than him as well. But I think it's going to be a great matchup. We're kind of built the same. He has a very, you know, slow and methodical style, and it's a good test for me on June 18th.
And how hard is it to prepare for a guy like that, where he just likes to kind of take his time with a lot of things, kind of like just to drag it out and like kind of get in these like just 15-minute fights where not a whole lot happens?
Yeah. Again, you know, I have to control what I can control. I'm just training, you know, to not really worry about his game planning or his you know, mindset going into the fight, and really just making him focus on my game plan and making him react to everything that I plan on doing in there, you know, on June 18th. I'm not one to kind of game plan for somebody else as far as like seeing, you know, just like being reactive to them. You know, I'm more of a guy who's going to go out there and really, you know, try to make them react to me as opposed to me, you know, being on the back foot the whole time.
Do you think your guys' like grappling will kind of negate each other? Or do you think it's gonna, because normally you see that happen a lot when two wrestlers or grapplers fight, it turns out it's like a kickbox fight? Or do you think it's gonna be a wrestling fight here?
I mean, I hope so I can show off a little bit of my striking, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's the first fight in front of fans, my first fight in front of fans, you know, in Austin, Texas, and it's a bigger cage we're gonna be fighting in, I'm sure. So it's gonna give us both a lot more room to kind of to strike as opposed to grapple. But I do believe that, you know, if I start putting my hands on him, that he will shoot like he always does with everybody that he fights. And if he gets that body lock, it's obviously something that you need to worry about when he gets the body lock. But I'm game planning. I'm drilling the drills that I need to do, and just, you know, focusing on the task at hand.
That's something I did want to ask you about. Is I know when they'd ask you when you guys get contracts, a lot of times just says location to be determined. Like, how excited were you when it wasn't the Apex? There's a lot of these fight nights, like, and when you found out Austin, Texas in front of fans, like, how excited was that? Yeah,
well, they actually, they offered me the fight for June 25th against Roman as well. When they first offered him, it was June 25th, I think. And then I got, my contract said June 18th, and then it said location to be determined. And I was like, all right, well, they're in Singapore the week before. So I'm like, there's no way that they're going to go to anywhere else after that. So I'm assuming it's in Vegas. So we worked it out. We got to switch to June 18th. And then I saw that there were rumors of it being in Austin, Texas. And I was like, man, like, finally it's happening. It's something that I look forward to, obviously. But, you know, when I know for a fact that when I'm out there, I'm not going to be worrying about the crowd or worrying about fighting in front of the crowd. It's something that I'll kind of dwell on afterwards and kind of reflect on afterwards, as far as like my energy and just the atmosphere itself. But when I'm in there in the cage and they say go, you know, that whole crowd and everything like that, it can be as quiet as Apex out there for me. Like the crowd isn't really probably going to bother me, and I'm just excited to just get out there, honestly.
That was kind of my next question. Like, there's no pressure on you then to like go out there and make this like exciting, even if it like puts yourself in danger. Like, it's more just getting the win, because you obviously see a lot of times where guys get in the crowd once, they start hearing the crowd, and then they just kind of drop their hands and start swinging and hoping they land.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I don't plan on, doing or going crazy and doing that kind of thing. But sorry, my eyes fucking killing me. But it's like, hopefully he's very, reactive as to the environment, because I think it's his first time fighting in front of fans as well. So it's, when I'm going out there, I'm not going to be worried about the fans, and hopefully he is, and hopefully he's really affected by the atmosphere and everything like that.
Do you think fight week for you is going to be any different? Just like now you can kind of explore a new city, like getting all like, it should be like a normal fight week with everything going on with fans and stuff, and not just kind of that same hotel in Las Vegas.
No, because I'm used to, fight. I'm used to going to fights with my brother. My brother fought in Vegas, but he also fought in Columbus. And, we kind of walked around Columbus and there was really nothing to do. But for my mindset, like every single fight week, it's kind of the fight. I'm not really worried about like going out there and sightseeing. I know guys are big on that to get their mind off of the fight. But for me as a mindset, it is my job. This is my job. So I'm going out there for work, and I'm not going out there for pleasure. So I'm going out there to kind of just stay in my hotel room. Maybe I'll take a walk here and there, but I'm not going to go sightsee or do anything, that I wouldn't do during a regular fight week.
How do you kind of see this one playing out then?
I'm going to get my hand raised regardless of what happens in the cage. I'm just going to go out there and try to be as dominant as I possibly can be. I'm really going to try to show off my striking this fight and just show that like my skill set is very well rounded. My last fight was, very wrestling heavy and everything like that. But with it being the bigger cage, we'll obviously have more room to move, and it gives me more space for me to kind of inflict damage and mix it up. I'm not going to be too focused on one thing. I'm going to go out there and obviously mix it up. It's mixed martial arts for a reason, and that's what I plan on doing.
He's a guy that's never been finished. Like his only loss is a decision. So are you kind of expecting him to be there the entire time? Yeah,
of course. He's a guy that's I think is in there for the all 15 minutes. It's going to be very tough to put him out. I think. But if it happens, then it happens, and it's just something that just shows that where my level is in the division. If I can go out there and get the finish, from a guy that's I think he's 9-1 right now, so I think that speaks volume on my mindset and my game planning and my talent that is in the division and where I should be.
Where do you think a win puts you? Like, to me, I think it has to be a ranked guy if you get this win.
I mean, I was saying that last fight, but you never know, honestly. Whoever they want me to fight, I've been thinking about this like for a while. I don't know why. It's just something that like it's going through my head that like the questions I'll be asked after I win, what's next, what's this, what's that. And again, I said it earlier, I don't think I'm in a position to be calling anybody out or to be, asking who to fight. I'm somebody who, they need time to build up. I need time to build up, obviously. Obviously, the quick jump to, getting to the top would be fantastic. But I think that, at this moment in time, that if I'm just fighting guys and just getting more experience, that it's gonna, push me further up top in the long run. And I'm not going to try to like call out anybody after the fight. I'm just going to, whoever they want me to fight, I'm going to fight, regardless of name, number, anything like that. There are also a lot of middleweights on the card. I lost to Hawes, but he's fighting Deron Wynn. Excuse me. Marquez is fighting as well, and Buckley is also on the card too. So there's a lot of middleweights that we can all match up afterwards if all goes according to plan. So
yeah, that's what I noticed too. Is Marquez is on this card, so that's kind of why I thought, especially if his like your timelines are the exact same, I thought it might have been him that you guys were getting rebooked.
Hey, I thought it too, but obviously that's not the cards they want to play. It's not it's not what they want to match up with, but I'm perfectly fine with that, and maybe we can match up again sometime later on.
Do you kind of picture them having all these middleweight fights? Like the UFC smart, I think they probably have it for a reason where they probably want to match up some of the winners here. Then,
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, how could they put on? I think there's 4 or 5 middleweight fights and not match up anybody afterwards. I think it's something that they plan on doing, which I'm fine with and I'm good with. Yeah, and I just look forward to getting out there on June 18th.
And the walkout, like, you looking forward to that first one in the UFC with the fans going?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Seeing that I am the featured prelim before the main card, I'm sure the place will be packed. I'm sure it's gonna be packed regardless because I know Yanez is fighting on the undercard, which is kind of crazy to me as well. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, and I think my walkout song is gonna be good enough for everybody to kind of get excited about. So,
and then it might be Buffer. I don't know who's calling, but you'll have a nickname this time when they introduce you.
Yeah, I will.
Is that going to be a bit weird hearing that?
It's going to be a little weird. But yeah, like it is what it is. You know, when I'm getting introduced during the fights, it's something that I kind of zone out in a way. I kind of just like focus on what I need to focus on, just like focus on my breathing, focus on just like mentally what I need to do in the fight. You know, as far as like Bruce Buffer's there yelling at me, like I see him and I'm like excited to see him. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, you need to get out of the cage so I can get in here and fight. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be different because people are going to be cheering, but it's going to be exciting. But I can't think too much into it. I have to focus on the task at hand, which is Roman Dolidze on June 18th.
I know you have no ties to Texas, but I feel like you have to be the one getting cheered in this fight just because you're the American, and the Texas has to be cheered for the Americans, I'd assume.
I mean, I would hope so, but they also could hate me because of my Kevin Holland fight. So
yeah, that's true.
And he's on the card as well. So, you know, it could be a hit or miss, but regardless, I'm going to go out there and do my job.
What is kind of the goal then for this year?
Just to keep winning. You know, this is my second fight of the year. It's going to be June. So as long as I get past Roman, you know, with no bruises, no bumps or bruises, anything like that, hopefully I can fight as soon as possible and just keep climbing the ranks. You know, even amongst the unranked guys, you know, just getting my name and just keep winning, getting my record up a little bit, and eventually, hopefully, getting a number next to my name by the end of the year.
Just last thing I want to touch on is obviously Chris had the another loss. I think I've seen so many people say like, "Oh, he's no longer a contender." Like he lost to Derek Lewis and Curtis Blades. Like those are the
he lost the top guys in the division. I mean, come on. I mean, and the guys that are saying that are, you know, Joe Schmo in their mom's basement. So
yeah, when do you kind of think he'll be back in there then?
I mean, hopefully by the end of the year. He kind of, you know, he's been through a lot within the last two fights. As far as like just putting his body through a lot of things, especially with the losses that he had. So, you know, we talked about it, told him to just kind of take the rest of the year off. He still is not sparring. He's not really, he's training like hard, and staying in shape. But again, he's not really sparring or anything like that, you know, just focusing on, you know, his brain health and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully by the end of the year, he can fight. I know there were talks that people I've seen him drop to 205, but you know, I still haven't talked to him about that either. And yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see him get back in there. As of right now, him training wise, he's physically strong, and I think he's getting stronger throughout. Like after this past fight, he's gotten a lot stronger, surprisingly. And yeah, I mean, hopefully by the end of the year he can get back in there, but I don't think he's in a rush to get back in yet.
I've seen so many the 205 talk. Like I feel like that's probably not an easy cut for him to get down to 205.
I think there's multiple factors that play into that. For him, you know, he was a bigger guy, so he was, you know, he was about 300 pounds at one time. So he's lost a significant amount of weight already. And dropping another 50 pounds, you know, that would be something that he's never experienced before. You know, from a person that cuts weight, I wouldn't want, like me, I wouldn't want to make that big of a cut in the UFC. You know, it's something that like he wouldn't be used to. If he were to do it though, I think we would have to do a test cut. Like obviously he'd have to do an 8 to 10 week like camp, you know, cut the weight, make the weight, fight on like spar or fight on Saturday, see how his body feels, see how he does with that, see how his body rebounds as well from the rehydrating and all that stuff. And that could be something that could potentially happen. But again, he's a guy who's never cut weight. He's never experienced, you know, what it's like being dehydrated and then refueling and then having to fight, you know, top guys at the next day. So it's something that, you know, is up in the air for him. We have to, you know, sit down as a team and talk to everybody and see what the best possible thing for him to do is. But as of right now, I don't think he's moving down.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah.
All right, we're joined by UFC bantamweight Adrian Yanez, who finally gets that Texas fight. Adrian, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going great. Loving life, man. excited. Excited I get to fight my home state of Texas. It's not Houston, but man, dude, I love it. I still love it. I still get to drive up to Austin, you know, have a good time and just kind of you know, fight my home state. You know, I find it so cool because down the road in Belton, like literally like about 20 minutes away is where it all kind of like my UFC run kind of got started, you know, because after that LFA fight, I got my chance on the Contenders, and after that, you know, it's kind of been, you know, my little history right there. So I'm super excited.
Are you surprised it took you this long? Like, it's not like they haven't been going to Texas. Like, you just missed out on those 2 Houston cards. Like, you fought it, what was it, like 2 or 3 weeks before the first one, and then like
yeah,
and then like another 2 or 3 weeks before the second one. Like,
man.
How happy are you that you're finally getting to fight in Texas, even though it isn't Houston?
Man, it's still to me it's still amazing. Like I trust me, like I am not complaining one bit, because I would have absolutely like killed to have gotten on that Dallas card too, man. Because fighting in Texas in general to me is just like it's amazing. It's like it's been a dream of mine. To fight in the biggest stage of my career, to fight in Texas. You know, Vegas is cool. Vegas is fun. I love going to Vegas every single time, especially after a win. You got everything there, you know, get to have some fun. But being able to fight in Texas and not being too far away from your home and just being able to like kind of have a little piece of home like right next to you is so great to me. Like that's a big reason why I want to fight in Houston, like, you know, because it's been a dream of mine just to even fight in Houston, biggest stage of my career. I've done it once, but it just wasn't at the stage that I'm at now. But man, like it's just again, like it gives me a little giddy feel. Like I like feel like a little kid in a candy store because I'm like I get to fight. And then also too, which is pretty cool, is that man, maybe after this fight, there's a couple places that I would want to either go float the river or, you know, go sit at Canyon Lake and just have a little like the time of my life, just, you know, just chilling, you know, being with my family and all that stuff. But that's the biggest part, is that like my family's going to this fight. Like legitimately, I gotten like so many people like messaging, like a lot of my family messaging me that they're gonna be at the fight. And to me, like it feels so amazing that at the biggest stage of my career, my family is gonna be there. And like they went out their way. They didn't ask for tickets. They just bought the tickets online. You know, thankfully I'm able to get tickets, you know, for my mom, my girl, you know, and my kid's gonna be there. So like that to me is just like so like fuck yeah.
Does that like add any more pressure though, fighting in Texas and having like all your friends and family there?
Oh man, I fought with my friends and family, like because in the regional scene,
Yeah.
I would had to sell tickets, and the people that would buy my tickets, you know, was always my friends and family. They would always come in and show support every single time. So it's easy for me. It's easy for me to fight in front of them. You know, I've won, I've lost in front of them. They've been with me through the highs of highs and the lowest of lows, you know. So to me, there's no added pressure. It's just me just going out there and performing at the best of my abilities, you know, because at the end of the day, I know they love me no matter what. So that the added pressure is nothing really added. If I'm being honest with you, it's just being able to perform. You know, that's at the end of the day, that's my biggest thing.
And 5th UFC fight, like finally getting to experience the crowd. It's in your home state. Like, what do you think that walkout is going to be like for you?
Man, I had a little taste of it whenever when one of my former training partners, Liam Anna, fought in Houston. I went to go corner help him in his corner, and like feeling that walk down the Toyota Center was just amazing. Like me just being in the corner walking out, man, I was just like pumped. Like I was ready to go out there and fight. And just like, man, just have I felt the energy, like I felt it. And I immediately knew at that moment that I was like, I need this. Like I absolutely need this. Like I need that feeling, you know, I need to go out there and fight in front of fans. Cause I'm telling you, like my past couple performances would have been just even more highlighted if there was fans there. Like that Davey Grant fight, that fight of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And then also at the same time with that Randy Costa fight going back and forth. And then my 2 knockouts even previous before that, man, would have been amazing in front of fans. Like, man, the crowd, just hearing the crowd go nuts would have been amazing for me. But I'm finally getting it. Fifth time, fifth time's a charm. But also too, I don't mind going to back to the Apex because, man, I feel like home every single time I go there. It's be nice. But just to wrap it all back around, maybe main event the Apex. Kind of like go full circle with it.
And with Tony Kelly, like, are you surprised this is the guy you got? Like, I thought you could have got a ranked guy, and like, I think you're ahead of him by a lot just because his last fight was Randy Costa, who you beat 2 fights ago.
Man, there was a lot going on because I've been asking for a fight since, man, like I talked to everybody. Everybody knew I was going to take 3 months off, because December my baby was born, then January, February, and then March came around, put myself like in a camp, went to go help Aljo, came back and already put myself into training where I was training consistently, doing 2-a-days. So I've been asking for a while just for a fight, and I just don't know what was going on. Suppose like there was some names being thrown around, and at one point, people were tagging me in Nate Maness's stuff and saying like, man, I've been looking for a fight for 7 weeks, and I'm like, bro, I'm in the same boat, been asking for 8 and 9. And I thought that was a name that was going to be coming across the, Nate Maness. He's undefeated. He has a really good record. He was on the up and up. So I was like, man, that to me, that's a no brainer for me. Would have been the Nate Maness fight. But Tony Kelly was pretty much what was available. And, I was like, dude, like, I'm not going to turn down like a guy that called me out either, because I was like, you're going to call me out. Might as well, because Nate Maness called me out and called me out after one of his fights, and I've been wanting to get that fight. And to me, that does make sense as well, because he's a guy who's on a win streak, like he's undefeated in the UFC, and he's on one. So I was like, yeah, that would have been the perfect fight. Tony Kelly, is as much as I want that fight because he called me out. Looking at it, to me, it doesn't make sense in what I'm trying to do, like trying to take steps forward. It is kind of a step back, but also at the same time, to me, I'm not really looking at it like that because he is a tough fight. He is a super tough fight. And I was watching some of his fights and I was like, this guy's gritty. So, it's going to be a fun fight for me. Like, trust me, like there's no like, just because I'm taking a step back doesn't mean like it's not a tough fight. It's a tough fucking fight, and that's gonna be a fun one for me because I do love, like, I always do want those, like, as much as I go back and I hate it, like I watched that Randy Costa fight, like, damn, that, like, shit, that looks fun, but at the same time, I don't want performance like that. I want to be perfect the whole entire time, but I know it's gonna be like a rough fight, unless if he can take my shots, if he takes my shots, then it's gonna be a fun fight. But if he can't, he's out.
And then ever since that like whole corner thing, like I've seen your social media where you're getting a lot of people messaging you to like, what you make of that whole thing. Like I wasn't even watching it. And then I just see all this thing on Twitter. Then I look at your Twitter and all your mentions are just blowing up saying like, oh, I can't wait till you knock out this guy and all that. Like what kind of was that 24-hour span like?
Man, it still kind of goes on. I still get people messaging me. Like my last Instagram post is just like a lot of Brazilian flags and all that stuff. It's just he did what he did. He said what he said, and kind of like everything just shot up on my end. I was like, this is not the way I wanted to gain fans, but I'm gaining fans that way. I would rather do it by fighting instead of someone saying something kind of really, really stupid. So it is what it is, man. But I take it. I'm taking it, and it kind of makes it a lot easier for me to punch him in the face. That just also, like, it just makes it so much easier because I think about it. It's not, you can't really call it racist as in like a point of like, because it's not a race, but I will say it's bigotry, and there's no room for bigotry in my heart. So like, man, I'm gonna, like, I want to starch this guy. Like, I want to hurt him, but I know he's a tough fight. The reality is he's a really tough fight, but in my head, I starch him. And when I starch him, I'm gonna be like, hey, this is for you, Brazil. But, at the same time, I can't let it fester in my head because it's going to be like, you don't want to strive off the game plan and all that shit. But, the guy said something really fucking stupid. So that's pretty much all I can chop it up to, you know. And I got a lot of Brazilian fans, even Gilbert Burns saying, like, if you put this guy out, dude, I'll throw you some extra cash and all that stuff. Like, dude, even Raulian Paiva, you know, it was telling me, he's like, oh, you knocked this fucker out and all that shit. Like, oh, all right, cool. Like, you know, and that's all cool and all. You're still in my division, but you know, hey, again, man, the guy said something stupid. The guy kind of has to get what he got's coming to him, you know.
And you kind of mentioned there how you want to knock him out, but like, and you kind of talked about earlier, like he's a very gritty, durable guy. Like he's never been finished. Like he's taken hard shots. Like Randy landed some big punches and kicks that we've seen knock out other people. So like, I know your power is a lot different. Like we've seen you knock out a lot of people that haven't been knocked out, but is this one where you kind of have to mentally prepare for him to be there for that whole 15 minutes just because we haven't seen him get put away before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't automatically go in there thinking that like I'm just gonna go in there and starch this guy. You know, in reality, that's what I want. I want to starch him. I want to put him out. I want to make it clear as a day that I'm the better fighter. But I know how tough he is. I kind of had to do the same exact thing for Davy Grant. Because I want, like, in my head, I wanted to knock Davy out. Like I wanted to put him to sleep. But the thing is, like, again, that dude is so tough. Like I just knew he just wasn't gonna go out. Like I knew after the first round, after I hit him with 2 hard shots, that like he's like after that day, like in the middle of that first round, I hit him with a hard shot, rocked him, immediately came to, was automatically trying to fire back. So you know, it's the same concept here, except I think Davy is a little bit more dangerous with power. You know, like if you didn't see that last fight, he knocked out like Smoker smooth. Like, he was out like cold, you know. And for me, you know, like I'm just like, damn, I avoided that. I was able to avoid that, you know, the power on his end, you know. So now it's got to do almost like the same, not the same game plan, but it's also like the same type of deal that I'm dealing with Kelly. You know, I got to be aware of what he does, you know, but also know, like, if I hit him with a shot, he's going to respect my shot. You know, he's going to respect my hands, you know. But if it knocks him out, fuck, yeah, fuck, you know, it's all good.
How do you kind of see it playing out? Just because I think a lot of fans are kind of expecting this to be a fun one, both you guys striking, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if Tony does what he did to Randy or in the like first round, he just decides to kind of stall you up against the fence and kind of extend it.
Yeah, I'm expecting that. Like I really am expecting for him to try to put on a hard pressure, you know. Yeah, but also at the same time, there's a lot of guys that wanted to pressure me. Like there's a lot of guys that wanted to be able to look for the rest of the wrestling and all that stuff, or just even just in the clinch work. But I'm pretty dangerous, you know. To close that distance on me, you're gonna have to walk through some fire. You know, you're gonna get hit with shots. You know, so to me, I'm game for it. I'm ready for it. I know what he wants to do. He's gonna either want to throw in volume and throw some pressuring shots and try to get me against the fence and try to clinch up with me. And to me, he's gonna have to walk through hell every single step. He takes a step forward, I'm taking a step forward. If he takes a step back, I'm following him. I'm taking a step forward. You know, so it's gonna be pressure the whole entire time, and I'm super excited for it because I just know there's gonna be a lot of openings. Whenever I find those openings, I'm gonna make them pay every single step of the way.
And with this one, like, say you do go out there and start, like you say, like, are you hoping maybe that quick turnaround, you can get right back on that July card in Dallas at the end of the month?
Man, it honestly really depends because I kind of want to enjoy my 4th of July, enjoy the 4th of July, enjoy Father's Day and all that stuff. But also at the same time, if the right opponent, the right, you know, everything just feels right, I'll take it.
And you're a guy that likes to be as active, like really active. So how frustrating and like hard has it been? Like first fight of the year is in the middle of June. Like it kind of sets you up to not have many fights this year.
Yeah, man. I had the plan. I had the plan to either fight late April, early May, and then try to fight in August, and then try to fight in September, October, and then try to squeak one in December. I was still gonna try to have a 4-fight year, but you know, it kind of was like a little bit like it was a little bit frustrating, especially these past couple months, even before I got it signed, like the fight signed. I was shooting, and then like at least there was talks, like before there would be talks, but literally it was like probably a week of talking before we actually signed the fight. So like the day we actually signed the fight was like literally the Instagram post was made. So it was like literally like 30 minutes before that. So that's when everything was signed, you know, but I didn't know I was fighting anytime before that. I just knew that was a possibility of me being able to fight. So it's like, yeah, it was super frustrating for the last like from the end of February to when the fight actually got made. So I was just like the whole entire time, just like, come on, like what the fuck's going on? But at the same time, I'm just super happy that like I didn't do what other fighters do and like not train whenever I don't have a fight. You know, I stayed training. I stayed diligent with what I did, you know, and what I was doing. So made sure that like I'm ready.
Just a couple more things. Like, what is kind of the goal for you then this year? Like, you get this win. I have to think a rank guy. Like, I thought a rank guy would have been next after Davey, but like, what's kind of the goal for you then this year?
Man, honestly, I'm still trying to see how everything pans out, you know, because shoot, there's a lot of fun matchups that are happening here pretty soon. So I would like to see where everybody takes the next step, because right now the division's still kind of in that like weird spot where they're still trying to figure out who's actually ranked and who's not, you know. So like, because there's people's rankings are changing on everyday basis, so it just depends, because you never know, you might be fighting someone who's ranked, but then they're not ranked anymore, you know. So kind of happened it kind of happened with Paiva whenever he fought Sean. Like Paiva was ranked, but whenever they fought, he wasn't ranked. So still trying to see how everything pans out. So I would hope some like a good fight. I think man, it just depends. Honestly, it just depends, because if no one's available in the top 15, then of course, yeah, I would like to take another fight. You know, if Nate Maness comes out the winner of his fight, but I think he got to a really tough fighter in front of him. Nate Maness comes out, I think that would be a perfect fight. You know, just to get knocked down off my list. You know, because I got a list of people who've called me out that I gotta check the names. You know, so that would be fun. And then, you know, hopefully a big fight comes after that too.
Just final two things. Like, Aljamain Sterling brought you out for his camp to defend his belt. Like, what was that kind of like, how that all came together? Because there's so many fighters in the UFC, and to have the bantamweight champion know who you are and obviously respect your boxing that much to emulate you on, like, what kind of was that like for you?
It was pretty cool. And the way that actually came about, man, he just reached out to me one day, and he reached out to me last year when he was first scheduled to have that second fight with Jan, whenever Corey ended up jumping in and everything. When that whole debacle had went on, like I had went out to go help him train that time, and you know, that was pretty cool. Got to know him a little bit, found out he was a really cool guy in person. You know, a lot of people can be really cool on social media, and like, even though he's not really that cool on social media, like, well, a lot of people don't perceive him as cool on social media. Everybody like thinks of what he is, but in person, that guy's a phenomenal guy. So got to meet him and got to be like, hey man, he's a really cool guy. And then the next time made it easier for me to make that, like, come out to New York and all that stuff. The first time, you know, it was like a little bit like, I don't know how this guy is and all that stuff, but that second time I was like, yeah, no, 100%, I'm there. Like, you just gotta let me know if he were to call me out again, like, and fly me out, want me to go help him train for TJ. If TJ were to fight, you know, I would definitely come back.
And just last thing, I haven't talked to you since you had your kid. Like, what's fatherhood been like for you?
Man, it's been fun, man. It's a blessing, man. Dude, I'm telling you, like, my whole motto has changed to living, loving life, you know, because every morning I get to wake up to him. Like, every morning I get to wake up to him. I get to take him to his daycare and everything. It's like, it's so fun. It's so fun because, like, I can see the little things that he does that kind of reminds me of me, and like, it's so cool, man. It's like seeing him have like his own little personality now, like, and how he like finds the way to communicate. It's so cool. It's just so cool, man. And like going through like the teaching them like the little things here, like trying to teach him, help him roll over, you know, and like getting them like his toys to try to see what he plays with and all that stuff. And like right now, like, it was so cool. It was so funny because I was eating mangoes one day, and like I was just like, hey, you know what? Let me see if he wants it. And he tasted it, and then next you know, he grabs my hands because I was holding on to the mango, and he just shoves his face in and just starts going to town on it, and I'm just like, hey, give me this. This is mine, bro. What are you doing? Like, man, but it was so cool, and like just seeing how he reacted after like the first time he was having food, like avocados and all that stuff. Like it was so, I don't know, that like the little small stuff like that is like making me like made me like, you know, like fuck yeah, that's so cool.
Well, Adrian, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
Man, thank you so much for having me on, man. Thank you.
All right, we're joined by UFC featherweight Ricardo Holmos, who's back in action. Ricardo, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, my friend. Living a dream every day, and excited for the next fight for sure.
Yeah, back in action against Danny Chavez. Like, was this a lot longer of a layoff than what you wanted? Like almost 8 months after your last one?
Yeah, for me, it's always UFC plans. I always accept every fight they send me. So I don't know why, but I was ready for the whole time and waiting for the next opportunity. But it comes right now, so I'm happy and ready to go.
And your opponent in Danny Chavez, like, how familiar are you with him?
Yeah, watching his fights on YouTube, and yeah, I could see some of his MMA game. I saw his fight against Jared Gordon, and I watched this one. And he's a good fighter. He's a good guy, and always a great challenge to be fighting UFC against the toughest guys in the world. So it's another one to be proven. Everything I trained and come back with a big win for sure. Definitely hope.
Your last fight too, like what do you take away from that fight? Like a really fun, entertaining, close fight against Zubaira.
Yeah, that was a close, tough fight, tough match. I gave my best. I was overcoming some situations, like I got COVID, and then Zubaira. No, first Zubaira injured his knee, so we could not fight in the right time. And then I got other fight, and I trained for other guy. But that was a fun fight, and I did my best to train for him and get the win. But that was not my day. So he got the win. He deserved it, and he was better than me on this night. I know I'm a better fighter than I was on this day. But it's always like that. You never lost. You always learn, and I learned from this one, and I'm ready to go for the next.
And with Danny, like, how do you think you match up against him?
I feel like everywhere I could see, like I could see something better for my game on him, you know. So I know I have a bigger distance. I can keep him away. I can put some hands, some kicks, and also I can work my wrestling, put him on the cage, and work my wrestling on the cage with his back on the cage. And also I have jiu-jitsu, so I can you know, give him some trouble on jiu-jitsu. But for me, it's the mindset. I want to finish the fight, and that's the thing, the thoughts I'm working on my training, to go to submission, to go to knockout. Always putting like to finish the fight before the time is over. So that's one of the things that I changed on my training camp, and that's what I'm looking for every moment of the fight. So let's see how that will be on this one.
This is your 5th fight now at featherweight. Like, how much better are you starting to feel now, and like fully kind of built into that featherweight frame?
Yeah, that's good to be back on the featherweight. Back, I fought before UFC, a couple fights in featherweight, and then I keep it fighting on 135, which was a lot harder to make weight, you know. And it took my energy a lot, because it's, you know, it was very hard to make weight. And in featherweight is a different division, different, a little bit different of, you know, time of competing. And I feel now I have a lot of experience fighting on this division. And but fighting is always fight. You gotta go to the win. You gotta go to the finish. and I feel like I'm ready to go anytime in featherweight, and I feel my body's good, everything's good, and just like you said, we're building the not only the division, but we want to get on the top, so we are building the way to the top.
Both you guys are really good grapplers, and like when that often happens, it turns into kind of a kickboxing fight. Like, do you expect it just primarily be a striking fight then, just with you wrestling negating each other? Or do you think it's going to hit the ground?
Yeah, I think that's gonna hit the ground for sure. If he tries to hit me on the ground, to put me on the ground, that would be good for me. I love to be, fighting jiu-jitsu, and I did some competitions a couple months ago just to stay in shape and also keep that feeling of adrenaline and competition, always on fire. And also, I could, I feel if we stay on the striking, that's gonna be good for me too, because I like striking. I'm from jiu-jitsu, but I love to striking, and uh, I know he's a tough opponent. He got some skills, but I gotta believe in my skills, and I know I'm ready to beat him on the striking, or either way on the ground too.
You have some knockout wins, like submission wins, but Danny's obviously very durable, like only ever been finished once. So, like, how do you kind of see yourself winning this fight?
I see the challenge, and that's what I wanna looking for. If he's hard to submit, probably that's where I want to be attacking. So submission would be a good finish. But also I know I will have my opportunities to get some knockouts on the fight. So I will be looking for the finish, as I said. But if I could choose, I would be choosing a submission, because just it's a bigger challenge.
Where do you think a win puts you? Like, you're a guy that's always right near that top 15, especially if you finish them. Like, where do you think that kind of puts you?
I gotta be honest. I just I'm coming from a loss. For me, I just want to win. I just want to think about the win, and after I win this fight, I don't know, the world will say, the universe will say, and I just want to get the win and see what will come. I will be ready for every challenge the UFC put on my life, and that's what makes me happy. I want to get on the top, get on the belt. It's never dying on my dream. My dream never will die to be the champion, and I will always looking for this, to be the champion of the UFC, and I will be working for that. And I know everything I gotta do is just win the fights and make good winnings, and finish the fights. So that's what I'm focused on right now.
This is your first fight of the year. So, like, what is kind of the goal for you this year? Like, I imagine you want to get a couple more in.
Yeah, I always ask for fights. I always wanted to be more activated, and but it's always UFC plan. So I'm always like texting my manager, "Hey, when are we gonna fight?" And he's always working, asking UFC. So I know my time will come. It sometimes we want to push something, and it's just not your time. You gotta wait for your time and keep working. So that's what I'm doing. I know my time will come.
Do you really plan to call anyone out with the win, or is it just whoever the UFC gives you right now?
I don't know, man. Maybe I call, I don't know, Usman.
Yeah.
No, he's too heavy for me. But I don't know. I never call anyone. I don't have anyone in mind. But as I said, my opponent fought Jared Gordon. He's a great fighter. I would have a honor to fight him. I know him from the event, from the back, of the show. But he's a cool guy, and he's a very tough opponent. And if I had the chance to fight him, would be nice. And but I don't have a plans to call anyone. I just want to fight and get the challenge UFC put on my life. And I know UFC has the best plans for my career for sure.
And you're fighting in Austin, Texas, in front of fans. Like, how excited are you when you found that out? Where it's not just a normal Apex card, where you're in front of a sold out arena.
That's the most excited part of the of everything, you know. So it's very good to be back to the show, you know, to be back to the real arena with full of people, and that's what makes me happy to be fighting, you know. When you get in the arena and you see all that people, you know, it's just like it burns inside your body. So it's a lot of adrenaline when you hear people screaming, and you know, that's the energy and the atmosphere we want to have on the fights. And I know that was a crazy time with COVID and everything, so now we're back to the normal arena. That's gonna be like a new era for me. Like it's pretty good to be back here for sure, and that's gonna be a different feeling that I miss so much.
You're still only 26, even though you've been in the UFC for a while. Like, do you still think you haven't even kind of gotten to your prime yet?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm always looking to get there, you know, and I'm always evolving. You know, sometimes, you know, when you lost a fight, you feel like sometimes think like, oh, I'm not on my priming, but you gotta be always looking for your training partners, the people you surround you, you know, because you always learning, you always improving, and inside the cage sometimes things doesn't come your way, you know, and you gotta focus on only on your evolution. Don't focus on others. Just keep working, keep believing, and I believe 100% one day I will be the champion of UFC, and that's the only thing I gotta focus on. If I focus on loss, so this and that, I will get like bad negative thoughts, and that's gonna be not good for my career. So I gotta be always looking for the positive side of things, and I know I learned so much, and I have a lot of to I have a lot of road to run in, and that's what I'm focused on. I know I will be there one day, and I just need to keep believing and working as I work, and one day I will feel this, you know, this taste.
Just last thing, I saw before this fight, you re-signed a new multi-fight deal. Like, how exciting is that? Where the UFC's re-signed you and has obviously a lot of faith in you to keep you on the roster.
Yeah, this is a lot of this is a great honor for me to be, you know, fighting UFC, fighting the best event of the world, you know, and be there, living my dream, you know. That's what I live every day of my life. I wake up and I live my dream, and this is only for few people, you know, in the world. So keep this in my life is just giving gas to keep living, you know. For me, I don't know what I am without fighting. So UFC gave me uh you know, more time living my dream. This is a great honor for me. I can't explain that. This is a feeling that I just can felt. I don't know if I could have words for that. It's just, you know, keep me alive. Without that, I don't know. Now I have a baby, so probably I will survive, but it's different for me. Living a dream is just what makes me alive.
Well, Ricardo, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good one.
Us.